Hello everyone, my name is Rowena Dillard, and I need to share a story about the day my stepdaughter learned that family isn't defined by blood, but by who actually shows up when it matters most. This is about respect, sacrifice, and the moment when truth finally spoke louder than cruel words. If you've ever been dismissed as not real family, this story is for you. It was a crisp autumn evening in Maple Hollow, Vermont. Our neighborhood was the kind of place where families gathered on front porches and everyone knew each other's business. I was hosting our annual family dinner in the home I had come to love over the past 12 years. The dining room was warm with candlelight and the smell of roast chicken. Caleb sat at the head of the table, smiling as he always did during family gatherings. His sister Magnolia had driven up from Boston with her husband and kids. Isolde sat across from me, picking at her food with that familiar look of annoyance she wore whenever I tried to make things special for our family. "This chicken is dry," she announced to the table. "I think it tastes wonderful," Caleb said gently. "Rowena worked all afternoon preparing this." Isolde shrugged. "My real mother made better chicken. She actually knew how to cook." The table went quiet. Magnolia looked uncomfortable. The children stopped talking. I had heard comments like this for years, but they still stung. Isolde's mother had died when she was 7 years old. I had married Caleb when Isolde was 8 and had been raising her ever since. "Isolde," Caleb said softly, "that's not appropriate." "What's not appropriate is pretending she's my mother when she's not," Isolde shot back. "She's just a stepmother. She doesn't even belong in this house." I set down my fork and looked at her. At 19, Isolde had grown into a sharp-tongued young woman who used her mother's memory like a weapon against me. "This is my home too," I said calmly. Isolde laughed coldly. "Your home? This was my mother's house. Everything in it belonged to her first. You're just living in her shadow." That dinner ended early, with Magnolia making excuses to leave and Caleb retreating to his study to avoid more conflict. It was the same pattern that had played out for years. Isolde would say something cruel about my place in the family. Caleb would give a weak protest. Then everyone would pretend it hadn't happened. But I remembered everything. I remembered moving into this house 12 years ago and finding it falling apart. The roof leaked, the furnace was broken, and there were unpaid bills stacked on every surface. Caleb had been struggling as a single father, trying to manage his job as a high school history teacher while raising a grieving little girl. The house his first wife had loved was becoming a burden he couldn't afford. I remembered working overtime at my job as a financial analyst to help pay for repairs. I remembered using my savings to fix the roof so Isolde wouldn't have buckets in her bedroom when it rained. But Isolde didn't remember those things. She only remembered that this house had once belonged to her mother, and in her mind, that made it sacred territory that I had invaded. Over the years, her resentment had grown stronger instead of weaker. Every birthday party I planned, every school event I attended, every attempt I made to be part of her life was met with the same response. "You're not my real mother. This isn't your house. You don't belong here." 3 weeks after the dinner disaster, Isolde came home from college for Thanksgiving break. I had spent days preparing her favorite foods and decorating the house the way she used to love when she was little. When she walked through the front door, she looked around with disgust. "Why did you change the living room furniture?" she demanded. "The old sofa was falling apart," I explained. "I thought you'd like the new one." "I liked the old one because my real mother picked it out. But I guess you don't care about that." Caleb appeared from the kitchen, carrying a plate of cookies. "Isolde, honey, maybe we could just enjoy having you home." "I'd enjoy it more if certain people remembered their place," Isolde said, staring directly at me. That evening, I was cleaning up after dinner when I heard Isolde on the phone with one of her friends. "Yeah, my stepmother is being extra annoying," she was saying. "She acts like she owns the place, but she's just some woman my dad married. This house belongs to my real mother's memory, not some wannabe replacement." I stood in the hallway, dish towel in my hands, listening to her dismiss 12 years of my life as meaningless. That's when I made my decision. The next morning, I called Thorne Avery, the family attorney who had handled our legal affairs for years. Thorne was a quiet, methodical man who had helped us through several financial difficulties. "Rowena," he said when I reached him, "what can I do for you?" "I need you to prepare some documents for a family meeting," I said. "It's time Isolde learned some truths about this household." There was a pause. Thorne had witnessed enough of our family drama over the years to understand what I meant. "Are you sure about this?" he asked. "Sometimes it's better to let sleeping dogs lie." "I've been letting sleeping dogs lie for 12 years, I replied. "And they've grown into wolves." "What documents do you need?" "Everything. The mortgage papers, the title deed, the financial records from when Caleb was struggling. All of it." Thorne sighed. "I'll have everything ready by Friday. But Rowena, think carefully about this. Once you open this door, you can't close it again." "Good," I said. "It's been closed too long already." That afternoon, I sat in my home office looking through old photo albums and financial records. The memories came flooding back. When I first met Caleb, he was drowning. His wife had died suddenly, leaving him with a 7-year-old daughter and a house he couldn't afford to maintain on a teacher's salary. The mortgage was 3 months behind. The property taxes hadn't been paid in 2 years. The bank was starting foreclosure proceedings. But the house meant everything to little Isolde. It was where her mother had lived, where her memories lived. Caleb couldn't bear to tell her they might lose it. So I stepped in. I used my entire savings account to bring the mortgage current. I took out a personal loan to pay the back taxes. I worked double shifts at my consulting firm to cover the ongoing expenses. When Caleb and I married a year later, I quietly refinanced the entire mortgage in my name because my credit was better and I could get lower interest rates. Caleb knew, of course. But we never told Isolde. She was just a little girl dealing with the loss of her mother. We wanted her to feel secure in her home, not burdened by adult financial problems. I thought she would appreciate what we had done when she grew older. Instead, she had grown up believing the house was her birthright and I was an intruder in it. I found a folder labeled Isolde's Education and opened it. Inside were years of receipts and bank statements. Private tutoring when she struggled with math in middle school. Music lessons for the piano she insisted she needed. Summer camps, school trips, college application fees. When Isolde was 16, she had decided she wanted to attend an expensive private college preparatory program. The cost was $15,000 for 1 year. Caleb's salary couldn't cover it. But I could. I had worked overtime for 6 months to pay for that program. I had given up my own vacation time and canceled a business trip I had been looking forward to. Isolde thrived in the program and got accepted to her dream college. But when she thanked her father for making it possible, he just smiled and didn't correct her. I hadn't minded at the time. I thought it was enough that she was happy and successful. But looking at these records now, I realized I had been quietly erasing myself from her story for years. And she had been happy to let me disappear. The college expenses were even more revealing. Isolde attended a prestigious private university that cost $60,000 a year. Caleb qualified for some financial aid, but not nearly enough. The gap was filled by something called family contributions on all the paperwork. Those family contributions had come from me. I had sold stock options from my company. I had taken on freelance consulting projects that kept me working until midnight. I had delayed my own retirement savings for 4 years. Every semester, when the tuition bill came, I paid it without complaint. Every time Isolde needed money for books, housing, or activities, I transferred funds to her account. But when she called home to thank someone, it was always her father she thanked. When she posted on social media about being grateful for her education, she tagged Caleb but never mentioned me. I had become invisible in my own generosity. The worst part was finding a letter Isolde had written to her college advisor, requesting additional financial aid. In it, she described herself as the daughter of a struggling single father who works hard to provide for me. No mention of the stepmother who was actually paying the bills. I found the documents from 3 years ago, when our family had faced its biggest financial challenge. Caleb had been diagnosed with a kidney stone that required surgery. He missed 6 weeks of work and his health insurance didn't cover everything. The medical bills totaled $47,000. At the same time, The house needed a new furnace and the property taxes had gone up significantly. We were facing potential bankruptcy. I had quietly taken out a second mortgage on the house to cover everything. Since the house was in my name, I didn't need Caleb's signature. I just did what needed to be done to protect our family. Isolde never knew how close we came to losing everything. She was away at college, focused on her studies and social life. When she came home for Christmas that year, she complained that we hadn't redecorated the living room like we usually did. "It looks so boring in here," she had said. "Don't you care about making the house nice anymore?" I smiled and told her we were saving money for her spring semester tuition. She nodded and went back to texting her friends. She never asked how we were managing financially. She never wondered why her father looked tired all the time or why I was working more hours. She just expected everything to be taken care of, the way it always had been. On Friday morning, I met with Thorne Avery at his office in downtown Maple Hollow. His office was in an old colonial building that felt appropriately serious for what we were about to do. "I have everything you requested," Thorne said, gesturing to a thick folder on his desk. "But I want to make sure you understand what you're doing." "I understand perfectly. This will change your family dynamic permanently. Isolde will never be able to see you the same way again." "Good," I said. "Maybe she'll finally see me clearly." Thorne opened the folder and showed me the documents. The original mortgage from when Caleb first bought the house. The refinancing papers from when I took over the payments. The current title deed with my name listed as the sole owner. Bank statements showing years of payments. Loan documents with my signature. Tax records with my name on them. "The house is legally yours," Thorne confirmed. "You've been making all the payments for over a decade. Caleb has no legal claim to it anymore." I nodded. "And if something happened to me?" "According to your will, the house would go to your husband first, then to Isolde. But right now, legally speaking, she's living in your house, not her father's. I want to schedule a family meeting for Sunday evening. Can you be there to present these documents?" Thorne adjusted his glasses. "If that's what you want. But Rowena, think about what comes after. What's your endgame here?" I looked out his office window at the tree-lined street where I had built my life for 12 years. "My endgame is respect," I said. "And truth." Saturday passed quietly. Caleb noticed I seemed thoughtful, but didn't push when I said I was fine. Isolde spent most of the day shopping with friends, which was normal for her when she was home from college. That evening, I called both of them into the living room. "I've asked our attorney to come over tomorrow evening," I said. "There are some family matters we need to discuss." Caleb looked worried. "Is everything okay? Are you sick?" "I'm fine. But there are some things Isolde needs to understand about our family situation." Isolde looked up from her phone with irritation. "What kind of things?" "Financial things. Legal things. Grown-up things. Why do I need to be involved in your boring adult business?" I looked at her steadily. "Because it affects you directly." Caleb frowned. "Rowena, what's this about?" "You'll understand tomorrow night." Isolde rolled her eyes. "This better not take long." "I have plans." "Cancel them," I said firmly. "This is important." For the first time in years, my tone made Isolde actually look at me with attention instead of dismissal. Something in my voice told her this wasn't going to be like our usual family discussions. Sunday evening arrived gray and cold, with early snow falling outside our windows. I had set up the dining room formally, with all the documents arranged on the table. Thorne arrived at 7 o'clock sharp, carrying his briefcase and wearing the serious expression of a man who had delivered difficult news before. Caleb sat at one end of the table, looking nervous. Isolde sat across from me, checking her phone and sighing dramatically to show how inconvenient this was for her. "Thank you all for gathering," Thorne began. "Rowena has asked me to clarify some legal and financial matters regarding this household." "What kind of matters?" Caleb asked. Thorne opened his briefcase and pulled out the thick folder. "Matters concerning the ownership and financing of this property, as well as various expenses related to the family's welfare over the past 12 years. Isolde looked up from her phone. "Ownership? What are you talking about?" "I'm talking about who actually owns this house," Thorne replied calmly. "My father owns this house," Isolde said with confidence. "It was my mother's house first, then it became his when she died." Thorne pulled out the first document. Actually, that's not correct. According to the current title deed, this house belongs to Rowena Dillard. The room went completely silent. That's impossible, Isolde said, her voice suddenly smaller. This is my mother's house. My father inherited it. Thorne spread several documents across the table. Your father did inherit the house initially. But in 2014, due to financial difficulties, the property was refinanced under Rowena's name. She has been the legal owner for 9 years. Caleb looked stricken. He had known this, of course, but seeing it laid out officially made it real in a new way. Why? Isolde asked, looking at me with confusion instead of her usual hostility. Because your father was about to lose the house, I said quietly. The bank was starting foreclosure proceedings. I refinanced it to save it. Thorne pulled out more papers. These are the payment records. For the past 12 years, every mortgage payment, every property tax bill, every major repair has been paid by Rowena. But Dad pays the bills, Isolde stammered. Your father pays the utilities and groceries, Thorne clarified. Rowena pays the mortgage, insurance, and taxes. She owns this house. Isolde stared at the papers as if they were written in a foreign language. I don't understand. It means, I said gently, that every night you've slept under this roof for the past 9 years, you've been sleeping in my house. Not your father's. Mine. Thorne wasn't finished. He pulled out more documents, spreading them across the table like evidence in a trial. These are education expenses, he said. Private tutoring, music lessons, the preparatory program, college tuition. The total amount paid by Rowena for Isolde's education is $234,000. Isolde's face went white. That can't be right. It is right, I said. Every semester payment, every textbook, every school trip. I paid for all of it. But Dad said, your father couldn't afford it on his teacher's salary, I interrupted. I could. So I did. Thorne pulled out the medical bills from Caleb's surgery. When your father was sick 3 years ago, Rowena took out a second mortgage to pay the medical expenses and keep the family afloat financially. Isolde looked at her father. Is this true? Caleb nodded, unable to speak. And these, Thorne continued, are the car payments for the vehicle Isolde drives. Also paid by Rowena. I watched as reality hit Isolde like a physical blow. Everything she had taken for granted, everything she had assumed was her birthright or her father's provision, had actually been made possible by the woman she called just a stepmother. Why didn't you tell me? She whispered. Because you were a child when it started, I said. And later, because you made it clear you didn't want to think of me as family. Isolde sat in stunned silence for several minutes, staring at the papers spread across the table. When she finally spoke, her voice was shaky. So what are you saying? That I owe you money? I'm not saying you owe me money, I replied. I'm saying you owe me respect. You did all this without telling me. How was I supposed to know? You weren't supposed to know the details when you were young. But you're 19 now. You could have asked. You could have wondered how a single teacher afforded to send his daughter to private college. You could have noticed that I work 60 hours a week while your father works 40. Isolde's face flushed. So this is all about making me feel guilty? This is about making you understand reality, I said firmly. For 12 years, you've treated me like an outsider in this family. You've told me I don't belong in this house, that I'm not your real mother, that I'm just some woman who married your father. I stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the snow-covered yard I had been maintaining for over a decade. But the truth is, I've been more of a mother to you than you've been a daughter to me. I've sacrificed my time, my money, and my own dreams to make sure you had everything you needed. And what did I get in return? I turned back to face her. Constant reminders that I'm not good enough to be part of this family. Isolde's composure finally cracked. Tears started running down her face as the full weight of her behavior hit her. I didn't know, she sobbed. I thought Dad was taking care of everything. Your father has been taking care of you emotionally, I said. I've been taking care of you financially. We've been a team, but you only saw half the team. Caleb finally spoke up. Isolde, I should have made sure you understood. I should have insisted that you show Rowena more appreciation. It's not about appreciation. Shows up. It's about who sacrifices. It's about who carries the weight when no one else can. I understand that now. Do you? Because for 12 years, you've made it clear that blood is the only thing that matters to you. Your real mother, your father's house, your birthright. But your real mother didn't pay for your college. Your father's salary didn't save this house. Your birthright was actually my investment in your future. Isolde nodded, still crying. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Sorry isn't enough, I said. I need to know that this changes how you see me, how you treat me. How do you talk about me to your friends? The meeting ended with Isolde retreating to her room, overwhelmed by what she had learned. Caleb and I sat in the living room after Thorne left, talking quietly about the years of unspoken tension in our house. I should have handled this differently, Caleb said. I should have made sure she knew what you were doing for us. We both made mistakes, I replied. But it's not too late to fix them. The next morning, Isolde came downstairs early. I was making coffee in the kitchen when she appeared in the doorway. Rowena, she said softly. Can we talk? We sat at the kitchen table where we had shared hundreds of meals over the years. For the first time in a long time, Isolde looked at me without hostility. I called my friends last night, she said. The ones I was always complaining to about you. Oh, I told them the truth. About the house, about college, about everything. I told them I was wrong about you. I poured her a cup of coffee. That must have been difficult. It was. But it was necessary. She took a sip and looked at me directly. I want to ask you something, and I want you to be honest. Okay. Do you regret it? All the money, all the work, all the sacrifice for someone who treated you so badly. I thought about it carefully. I regret that you never knew. I regret that we let you grow up thinking you were entitled to everything without understanding the cost. But I don't regret the sacrifice itself. Why not? Because that's what mothers do. Real mothers. The ones who choose to love you, not just the ones who gave birth to you. Isolde started crying again, but these were different tears. I want to make this right, she said. I want to be better. I want to be the daughter you deserved all along. Then start today, I said. And keep starting every day after that. Sometimes, the sharpest revenge isn't shouting, it's letting the paperwork do the talking. She called me just a stepmother, until she saw whose name kept her roof standing. It took 12 years, but Isolde finally learned that family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up when things get difficult. It's about who sacrifices without asking for credit. It's about who chooses to love you even when you don't make it easy. Our relationship changed that day. Not overnight, but steadily. Isolde started acknowledging my contributions to the family. She began treating our house like our home, not her shrine to the past. Most importantly, she started seeing me as the mother I had always been, not the intruder she had imagined me to be. The title deed is still in my name. But now it feels like our house again, not a battleground. If you believe real family is proven by sacrifice, not blood, hit that subscribe button, because stories like this deserve to be heard. And remember, sometimes the people who love you most are the ones whose contributions you notice least.